whether we're finalizing a fantasy lineup or a DFS lineup, our friend is sleep. Our enemy is being awake and realizing that maybe we should swap out a player for another, and so on and so on. I just got back from a 3 mile walk. I left with a DFS lineup that I set the day before and felt good about. And by the end of the walk, I'd gone through about 20 iterations. And when the walk ended, I decided, okay, I guess this is my lineup now for, for Sunday's 4 p.m. Eastern games on DraftKings. For context, I'm more nervous about it now because I won again last week. The lineup I recommended to listeners, I had two. One of them was Josh Allen heavy and featured T. Higgins, and the other was James Cook heavy, and also featured Harold Fannin. Not a lot of people rostered Fannin in DFS. Not a lot of people rostered Higgins. So as it turned out, even with Cook not doing well, the rest of my lineup, including Fannin, did well enough to clear 50-50 lineups and win on the top half, and just barely eke out a win in tournament play, basically getting in the top whatever 18% and doubling our money. So if you bet on both of those lineups that I recommended, you essentially doubled your money. Great. So that's 5 of my last 6 lineups, I think it is, have hit. And now I'm feeling the heat. And heat's just on me. And hopefully I thought the walk would help, and it just made things harder. My original lineup was 49ers heavy. I looked at Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey. I thought about Devin Neal. And then kind of filling out the rest, I put in a very cheap Marvin Mims with Pat Bryant injured. And I just didn't feel good about it, mostly because McCaffrey has a back injury and he is questionable. It seems like he's going to be fine. I'm recording this late Saturday night. And I thought, well, maybe I'll hedge him with Brian Robinson, but that's a pretty expensive hedge. McCaffrey's going for about $9,000 in a $60,000 budget, whatever it is. I mean, he's pretty much the most expensive player, in this whole DFS universe for 4 p.m. Eastern games. Not worth it. So after a bunch of changes, this is what I've settled on. I've got Bryce Young at quarterback. I like the fact that Carolina now controls their own playoff destiny. They're coming off a bye. And Bryce Young has been hit or miss, but he's cheap. And I like that in a week where Matthew Stafford has a tough matchup. Jared Goff has a tough matchup. Even Sam Darnold has kind of a tough matchup. We'll see. I think that the Colts with Phillip Rivers, assuming Phillip Rivers is the starter, will probably play a very conservative offense, keep the ball out of Seattle's hands for as much as possible. And I think that's going to, in some ways, limit the ability of Seattle to dominate on their end. So I've got Carolina, which has played pretty well on the road. Bryce Young has had some good road wins. And so I'm not as concerned as I would be for some quarterbacks playing on the road. I think this is a plus matchup. And the Saints are a reasonably decent opponent. Not great, not bad, just decent. We'll go with Bryce Young. Now, the weird thing is my running backs, I'm hedging with, and it's kind of a triple hedge. It's Rico, Dowdle, and Chuba Hubbard. Dowdle's pretty expensive. Hubbard is not. My thinking there is that both of those guys are catch friendly. So it is quite possible that one or both could catch, 3 passes for 40 yards. And it is possible that one will score. I think collectively, I'm going for 35 points between those 3 guys. If I can get 35 points, given all the challenges that every other player in that slate is facing, from Detroit to the Rams and so on, a lot of tough matchups, I'm pretty comfortable that if I can get 35 points out of those Carolina guys, I'm good. I realize that Dowdle might be the lead guy. Hubbard might be the lead guy. It could just be a hot hand situation, but I'm willing to roll the dice and save some funds on the whole for the next batch of players, which is my wide receivers. I'm going very top heavy with Puka Nacua and Jackson Smith and Jigba. Both of those guys are averaging 22 plus points a game in fantasy. Nacua, I feel better about the Rams through the air than I do on the ground. And I think if anyone's going to break through with Devontae Adams still ailing, who knows? I guess he'll be okay. But as of again, late Saturday night, we can only assume, Nacua seems like the surest bet. And Smith and Jigba also is as sure a bet as any in fantasy this year. My third receiver is Jauan Jennings. I do think that the 49ers will comfortably beat Tennessee. And that's why I was heavy on them in my original lineup. I'm still keeping Jauan Jennings. I think he's a pretty safe bet. He's coming in around $5,200 or something like that. If I go too much cheaper than that, I'm looking at Cooper Kupp, and I'd rather bet on Jauan Jennings than Cooper Kupp, even though, truthfully, I'm starting Kupp. I think I'm starting Kupp as of right now in my fantasy playoff game because I've got T. Higgins and Marvin Harrison Jr. Both are hurt, so I'm kind of desperate. My flex is Ricky Pearsall. Some of you might be wondering, what the heck, BJ? Why are you picking Ricky Pearsall? He's done nothing since he's been back from his injury. Well, why did I trade for T. Higgins 6 weeks ago or whatever when he was awful? And it's because I could perceive a pretty strong scenario where Higgins would bounce back, where Cincinnati would lean more heavily into him rather than giving Jamar Chase 17 targets a game. Similarly, the 49ers coming off a bye, they're looking at Pearsall. They're looking at a likely playoff berth, a very realistic playoff berth. They're headed in that direction. And they need to get Pearsall going. They don't have a true number one wide receiver. Brandon Ayuk's window for returning hasn't, I don't think it's opened yet. Jennings is not a true number one. I think he's kind of a number one by default, but Pearsall has the ability to get 20 plus points. And so coming out of the bye, my theory is that the team has been working with Pearsall to try to figure out how to get him going because they need that in the real playoffs when they get there. My tight end is Colby Parkinson with Tyler Higbee on injured reserve. Parkinson is a very cheap, I think he's like 3,200 or something like that, tight end. Any cheaper than that, and it's a total dart throw. I think Parkinson is a good bet for 8+ points. He's worth it at that price, and you hope for a score. And finally, with the very little funds I have left, I could go with the Saints defense, but that doesn't make sense because I'm heavy on Carolina. So I'm going with the Packers defense. The assumption there is that they will do a good enough job keeping Bo Nix and RJ Harvey in check. I am starting RJ Harvey in my fantasy league, but I don't trust him. He's really more of a TD dependent running back. Some might disagree. He dominated last week. I get it, but he dominated against a much softer opponent. I think the Packers are a good bet, solid bet for 7+ points. And when it comes to DST, I don't want to overspend when anything can happen at any time. Any team can get a defensive touchdown and change the trajectory of your lineup. So there's my lineup right there. Bryce Young, Rico Dowdle, Chuba Hubbard, Puka Nacua, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jauan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall, Colby Parkinson, and the Packers defense. Let's make it whatever it is, 6 out of 7. And good luck if you're playing this or any other DFS lineup. Good luck if you are in the fantasy playoffs or if you're in one of those leagues that hasn't quite made the playoffs yet, but you have to win this week to get there. And we'll see you tomorrow.